So you've got your story in your head that you've been wanting to tell in the form of a film or a short film, but you have no tools to shoot. But still, you can make your film. How? The answer to the question lies in the device that you're watching this video. The story is an important aspect of whatever you're going to do, so before you plunge into shooting, see to it that whether the idea holds good for being a film. Work on your screenplay because an engaging story always eliminates the technical aspects of filmmaking, such as what camera has been used to shot, etc. Let's now take a look at the core element, the smartphone. With the evolution of the technology, much emphasis has been laid on the improvement of cameras in smartphones since the last decade. What started off from a 2-megapixel camera now have evolved to a 4K resolution, and the trajectory of improvements in the senses of the camera promise a revolutionary development in the years to come. But the question is, can smartphone filmmaking compete with the conventional methods of filmmaking? To answer that question, however nascent the implementation of smartphones in filmmaking, the dichotomy is that many veteran filmmakers like Soderbergh have already implemented iPhone as their primary camera in many films like Nascent and High Flying Bird. The list also includes Sean Baker's 2015 movie Tangerine, as well as The Last Shot of Florida project, which reinstates the fact that the device doesn't matter as long as a compelling story is told. Famous screenwriter and playwright David Mamet advised the young filmmakers to take their smartphones to their backyard and shoot something. This is as close as anybody can get to filmmaking. As long as the smartphones have the option of a resolution of 4K or shooting in Full HD, any smartphone will do, as clarity is the main constraint here. Majority of the times it's the framing that accentuates the shot, but not the brand of the smartphone, nor ironically the resolution of the smartphone. Remember that a smartphone is merely a tool, but not the one who is calling the shots. Using basic craft techniques such as the rule of thirds and Picasso's golden ratio, one can achieve an aesthetic appeal, and by following screen direction rule like the 180-degree rule, disorder can be prevented in the edit, as well as the viewing experience will turn out to be smooth. Remember that there is no rule to follow any rule, but it's always good to have a hang of the rules before you break one. Once you have zeroed in on the actors and locations, it's ideally suggested that you do a mock shoot in order to check how the camera sensor is responding to the light and how the colors are being read in the location by the camera sensor. A color might be perceived in different shades by different smartphone cameras. Also, smartphone cameras have little to play with the focus and exposure as opposed to the consumer-grade DSLR cameras. In addition to that, multiple accessories can be added to the lens of the smartphone camera that mimics the certain shot types that are achieved using the DSLRs. Once you're done with the shoot, the next important step is storing and retrieving of the footage that has been shot. It's always a good idea to make multiple copies of the footage and store it on cloud storage too, as the secondary storage devices are always bound to corrupt, leaving you with footage loss, and no benefit of doubt should be given. Archaic method of storing footage is useful as this is in direct correlation with the editing, which brings us to the next topic, the edit. Editing essentially is about removing the bad bits as much as it is about joining the film together, as Mr. Walter Murch describes in his book In the Blink of an Eye. Look for the shots that take your story forward visually and provides an emotional leeway. If you are the editor as well as the director, try to be as objective as possible with the footage. If you are editing on a computer, there are many free softwares available to the filmmakers and editors such as Blackmagic's DaVinci Resolve, HitFilm Express and Blender. All these programs provide tools that are suitable for making complex editing and post-production activities. One can master these programs fairly quickly as there are a plethora of crash course tutorials available on YouTube. There are editing softwares available for smartphones also, but keep in mind that they provide basic editing features and complex cuts and edits are not always possible. There's default iMovie Maker for the iOS devices, as well as GoPro has developed an editing application called Quick. All these editing softwares are efficient and have a clean user interface and preset templates so that you can plunge into editing without any prior knowledge. Editing can take your film to the next level provided that you choose good music. If you're not having a choice of music composer, then one can choose amongst the web. Music which is licensed under Creative Commons can be found across various platforms such as YouTube, SoundCloud, etc. One can choose amongst the variety of compositions composed by musicians across the world which are 90% royalty free, meaning one can use these compositions provided that they give credit to the original artist. The Creative Commons mechanism has paved way for many filmmakers to include the music pieces as well as Foley in their projects. With the music and Foley figured, a question that arises, what about the vocal part? Often it's believed that the vocal part of the video as well as the sound mix of the video must always be done in a dubbing studio, which is true if you want to handle your sound part of the film in a more professional way. But with a quiet room with minimal ambient sound, one can record their voices in the smartphone itself. Many smartphones come with an inbuilt voice recorder. For example, the iPhone has a voice recorder which is powerful enough to record the voices at high quality that if done correctly can mimic the quality of a studio recorded file. The reminiscent ambient sound can be removed by using a software called Audacity, an open source audio program available for free. Once you're done with the editing and tweaking your first cut, there are two ways to release your film. You can go about the festival route and submit your film for the festival circuit through websites like Shortfundly, Shorted and Film Freeway. Or you can go about releasing your film on YouTube or Vimeo. There are multiple third-party media distribution channels that can present your film on their channel provided that the content is good. That constitutes the brief video on smartphone filmmaking. In conclusion, would like to reiterate that guerrilla filmmaking or smartphone filmmaking, which can be termed as a subgenre of guerrilla filmmaking, is still at nascent stages in India. Many filmmakers like Gopal, Varma and Anurag Kashyap have avidly promoted this method through their films like The Department and That Girl in the Yellow Boots. In a language bifurcated cinema country like ours, more filmmakers can come out and present their stories immediately with the help of smartphones.